Welcome back to another video of the Roottreemania, where we try to fill out the Roottree family tree and find out who's the real Roottree out of all of these infidelities and intrigues. If you haven't seen the previous videos, I would highly suggest you go check out the playlist in the top right corner to catch up. In the last part, we locked in Guy, David, and the brothers. And some optional entries here as well. Okay, she is not a cashier, apparently, as the last profession. Well, let's investigate all the new evidence that we just received. Quite a lot, apparently. What is this? A photo was given to you by Sam Madsen. A woman named Regina Clementine came to her and claimed that her husband has confessed he thinks he's a Roottree. The details of this case can be found in your evidence. Stuart is the older boy wearing a vest. The woman in the photo is Mary-Beth Clementine, a singer who may have had an affair with Miracle Roottree. I knew there's something up with Miracle Roottree. I knew it. He was too defensive. There's a peach on her guitar or something. Is that a peach? Or an apricot, maybe. Mary-Beth Clementine had a husband and two sons. And she had an affair with Miracle. Possible infidelity. I mean, if it was with Miracle, when was Miracle born? How old the infidelity could have been? So either this one or this one, right? Either 21 or 49. I mean, if we have her husband's photo... Oh my god, this one goes deep. What the hell? I guess because it's an old one. I mean, if she had an affair with Miracle... Well, and she was married. This lady isn't married, and I think it's too old as well. I think this one might be the affair with Elias, the one that Sam described in her book, where Elias was arguing with Gwyneth. So I think this is Elias's. Let's select this as Elias, so we don't forget. And he was the first president, as we know. And this would be Elizabeth something, who was also a secretary, as far as I know. Which means this one would be Miracle. And he is a preacher, that's for sure. And here is his photo. Which means this would be Mary-Beth Clementine. She's a singer, as we... Well, not... she's a musician, as we know. Her spouse is... What's his name? Oh, Stuart is the boy. I don't know anything about her husband. Stuart is the older boy. Well, this would be Stuart then. Clementine probably is his surname, I would guess. And this would be the other child. This would be the husband, whose name we don't know. Well, well, well. I feel like we're getting somewhere. This photo has been super useful to fill some things out. Let's search for Mary-Beth Clementine, because if she was a musician, surely there is some good. Wait, Regina Clementine. Okay, wait, a woman named Regina Clementine came to her and claimed that her husband has confessed he's a Roottree. So this is Mary-Beth, as I correctly marked. But somewhere down the line, one of these ladies here would be Regina Clementine. Yeah, let's search for Mary-Beth Clementine and see what we find. Mary-Beth Clementine was a singer most popular in the years between 1942 and 1959. She traveled around the country performing at churches. Well, that explains a lot. Her repertoire was a mix of religious and popular songs, and although she recorded a few records, they seem lost to time. The only one you find mentioned was a cover of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, released under the label New Edison. One thing Mary-Beth was known for was her adoptions. She's listed on many sites that mention adoption and the history of adoption. She adopted 2 children in the late 1940s, Stuart and Mark. Okay, well, we know the other boy's name, Mark. Clementine. Good. She also spoke as an advocate for the benefits of adoption in front of the United States Congress in 1949, who were convening to debate and discuss the then recent first adoption of an African-American child to a white family in the United States. She was specifically there to detail her experience going through the system to adopt Stuart. Her other son was adopted later, and according to a single line on one adoption site under unusual circumstances. Intriguing. What are those unusual circumstances? In 1959, it surfaced that Mary-Beth had been twice divorced, both times to her manager Sterling. Well, I'm guessing Sterling is the surname. No, is that the first name? Oh, that's the first name. Okay, well, fair enough. This ended her career with a religious audience she had been catering to, and while she performed occasionally since then, she mostly faded into obscurity. Mary-Beth passed away in 1994 at the age of 76 of a stroke. New Edison was a small record label based in Los Angeles that existed for a few years in the 40s. It raced to release cover records of songs that were gaining in popularity. According to a website according the history of recorded sound, it was named after its founder Sterling Edison. Its biggest claim to fame is being sued by the estate of Thomas Edison in Edison Records versus Edsel. Sterling Edison. So I'm assuming his surname is Edison then, it sounds like. You also find a few references to New Edison and Mary-Beth Clementine on sites about old records. One collector says that the Holy Grail is a re-release of the old Rugged Cross, and says that the first edition was originally published before she legally changed her name. Oh, okay, so it's not her original name, Mary-Beth Clementine. Okay, I see. Another site claims that the police had to be called to New Edison Records after its owner Sterling Edison got in a physical altercation in public, leading to a divorce, maybe with miracle? There are no cited sources or evidence, and the site's content seems user-submitted. There's an email address at the bottom, and the phrase, "Send me your stories about old Hollywood and I'll add them to the page." Okay, there are quite a few paths to go. Ooh, when it was first reviewed by the magazine, The Old Rugged Cross, it listed the artist as Mary-Beth Quaker. Mary-Beth Quaker. Quaker then, huh? Would her... No, but the children would be Clementine, right? Because Regina Clementine. So I would assume that, yeah, her children would have a surname Clementine. And Mary-Beth Quaker, because we need to provide the original name that they were born with. Edison Records was one of the first record labels named after Thomas Edison. The history of the company seems very unimportant, except for potentially a lawsuit they filed in 1949, Edison Records versus Edsel. A website about lawsuits mentions this is a fun case because the name of the lawsuit was actually the biggest problem for the person being sued. A record producer who called himself Edison was immediately outed as not actually being named Edison. Edsel was a German last name, and at the time of the founding of the company, the US was at war with Germany. The company's founder immediately settled to try to get the case to go away, but the damage was done. Is his surname Edsel then, not Edison? Sterling Edsel. Gotta keep adjusting these things. Lots of red herrings everywhere. This is really tricky. Let's see what other evidence did we get here. From 6 pieces at prodigy.us to genealogy genie at prodigy.us. This is all the information I have about Regina Clementine. Nee Salazar. What is nee? What does that mean? Nee is a way of providing information about what someone was originally called. It's often used to provide a woman's maiden name after her married name, which means she was married into the Clementine family, which means it's either this spouse, or this spouse. Which one? No way of knowing, really. Not yet. From New Orleans, Louisiana, and her husband's... Oh! Well, okay. I should have finished reading the sentence. Stuart Clementine is her husband. Well, this would be Regina Salazar. She wrote me about a month ago. Apparently, the Roottree lawyers went after her since then. By the time I received her letter and called her, she told me she couldn't cooperate anymore. Her husband, who is a police officer and never knew his father, told her, though, he might be a Roottree. Police officer, okay. Good. This one should be correct. I think this should be correct as well. This should be correct. If I haven't made any blunders, I think we should have 3 correct right now. But he's estranged from his family and didn't want to pursue it because he had no proof. She wrote to me behind his back. Normally I wouldn't be so sure, but she had some pretty credible facts. Some of it I've been able to confirm. Stewart's mother was named Mary-Beth Clementine. She was pretty well known in the 30s to 50s, a singer who went on to tour a lot of churches. You can look her up online, already did, and she was a pretty big proponent of adoption. I know for a fact that she came to Butler County a few times. I remember her from when I was younger, and Regina said that Stewart told her that they always seem to spend a lot of time at the Miracle Church. She sent me a photo to prove that she's who she says she is. I've attached it to this email. Please consider saving a tree and not printing this email. Okay. I mean, Joanna did work as a secretary as well. His mother never came back from the movie rental store where she worked the register, but she wasn't verified as a cashier. I feel like a cashier should be her most recent profession. Maybe something... Oh, it must not have been her surname. It's not her maiden name, right? Because Fellows comes from Riley. She must have had a different surname. I think the cashier is right. How do we find her maiden name? Okay, let's just mark it as unknown for now, so it doesn't confuse me later. Let's get back to this this tree for now, because we still have some new evidence to dig through. Maybe we can search for Mary-Beth Clementine in Butler County Times. Mary-Beth Clementine came to Butler County a few times and played religious hymns at the Miracle Congregation's church. She mentioned 2 times, though the first visit from 1949 was significantly more substantial. Miracle Congregation welcomes Mary-Beth Clementine with open arms. The article mentions that the church's leader was moved when he heard Mary-Beth's recording of one of his favorite hymns, "His Eye is on the Sparrow," and reached out to her personally. His Eyes on the Sparrow holds a very special meaning to me. As you know, I've had a very difficult upbringing, and it's no secret that my own eyes have always been a source of struggle. The song is about overcoming sadness and hardship through Jesus. If God can find a way to watch over every sparrow, he can certainly watch over those made in his image. My family's fortune does me no good as a man of the Lord. It's much better spent spreading his word, and I've felt a kinship with Mary-Beth ever since I heard her voice. When I learned her personal story, I knew I had to help her in whatever way I could. The Bible is full of adoptions from Moses to Esther. Spending your life taking care of those helpless to help themselves is incredibly noble. She and her son are welcome to stay in our guest home. The second visit was a few years later in 1953. The article mentions that her first visit was a massive success, and at the insistence of Miracle's congregation, she's returned for an encore performance. It also mentions that the unusual circumstances of her second son's adoption have prevented her from touring recently, but does not clarify. So unusual circumstances prevented her from touring. I mean, if these... I'm thinking that Mark might be like a biological son of Miracle, maybe. Those might be the unusual circumstances. But I'm thinking Stewart might not be the biological son. If Mary-Beth adopted him, I mean, he wouldn't be part of the Roottree bloodline, right? But I'm thinking that Mark might be. That's what I'm thinking right now, at least. Okay, what else do we have here? Confidential. Oh boy, that's a lot of documents. Brace yourselves. You were given some partial staff records to cross-reference by Sam Madsen. These records are based on old tax mailing information and only detailed the employees that worked directly for Roottree or in their corporate office. The many laborers on their farms and in the factories are not listed. You're not sure how helpful it will be, except for cross-referencing guys' secretaries and visits overseas. Spider searching people just because they are listed in the books will likely be very time-consuming and a waste of your time. We have Zach Morden, the president. Special management, Ernst Madsen Jr., office staff, Edward Jr., Lloyd Carpenter, Carl Monroe, Elizabeth Cravensworth. Elizabeth Cravensworth, huh? We are interested in Elizabeth's here. Under Zach Morden. So Zach was the second president, which means it was like a pretty long time ago. Maybe it is the Elizabeth that Elias had an affair with. Maybe. This one. We have Eli, Fred, Albert. Oh wait, but oh no, it's an office staff. It's not a secretary. There's secretaries separate here. Okay, fair enough. Farm and manufacturing. Another Elizabeth. A popular name. I mean, let's highlight all Elizabeths. In 1977, it was announced that Zach would be retiring and Guy would be taking over at the start of 1978. They held their retirement party in November before spending the final month working on the transition. During 1976 and 1977, the following changes took place. Guy Hudson has replaced Ernest Madsen Jr. as a special manager. Patrick Derrick was hired. LIC no longer employed. Ernest Madsen now listed as product manager. Christine Farrow was hired. Joanna Robertson is no longer listed among the secretaries. But Joanna Fellows has been added to the list. Here, Joanna Fellow. Wait, no, shoot. Fellows is her married surname. I was hoping to get her maiden name, but no. Oh, wait. Joanna Robertson is no longer listed, but Joanna Fellows has been added. I think she married, and her maiden name was Robertson. I think. I'm hoping once I set her surname to Robertson, things get locked in. If I'm right. Yes! Let's go! Oh, this feels so good when you, like, lock things in and then, like, the game confirms that you've been right about these things. Ah, feels good. We locked in quite a lot of additional info as well, yeah. Sterling Edsel, we were right about that. All these, like, red herrings I successfully avoided for now. I'm sure there will be plenty more that I will not avoid as nicely. But good, okay. She was a cashier indeed. We found out her surname, Christine Garland. So I'm sure we'll see her name there as well. Okay. Joanna Fellows and Beth Knox are no longer employed by Roottree. 1 year later. Christine Farrow is no longer listed among the secretaries, but Christine Garland has been hired. Christine Farrow, Christine Garland. Oh, wait, here is the same issue. I have her as Garland, but her maiden name isn't Garland. Was it Farrow? Farrow. Here we go. We still don't have her photo, though, but that should be correct now, I think. John Miller is no longer employed by Roottree. Oh, that's the Sam's father. Gwyneth Madsen was hired. Beth Knox 50-year work anniversary bonus. That's a solid bonus, I gotta say. Zach Morden retirement party. Next, in 1978, Guy Hudson took over. This began a particularly volatile period in the company's staffing. Many travel expenses were listed and Guy began trying to develop new 5-piece flavors. And 5 affairs flavors as well, as we can see. Maybe that's why there are 5 affairs. He was very committed to the name. Guy Hudson replaces Zachariah. Edward Roottree, Elizabeth Cravensworth, and Lloyd Carpenter are no longer employed. Rafferty is now listed as office staff. But that was the company of, was it Clark? Yeah, I think that was Clark's company that made some jingles and stuff, if I remember correctly. Albert Cross and Fred Cross are no longer employed by Roottree. Christine Garland is no longer working for Roottree. Beatrice Watts and Corinne Schwartz as secretaries. Well, we know that Guy had an eye on secretaries, so let's highlight their names. I'm thinking they might be somewhere here. If I were a gambling man, I would bet on that. At least one of them is there. Juliet McCullin and Doris Mays are no longer employed. Lisa Lewis and Valerie Ewing were hired. He had lots of secretaries, alright. Thomas Green, Michael Crane, Elizabeth Furrow, and Jack Keatings are no longer employed. Emily Seinfeld and Sam Cattrall were hired. Robert Logan no longer employed. William Sams was hired. Susan Ford was hired. Special Services Interpreter. Under a special category that only existed for 1 year. Interesting. Major expenses. Presidential office refurbishment, 52,000. 5 pieces. Flavor development, caviar. Right, he did the caviar flavor. 10,000 a month. Edward Roottree retirement party, 7,500. Christmas tea brush. New Year's Eve ball. Travel expenses, Australia, China, France, and Brazil. Okay, okay. Butterscotch flavor, caviar flavor. Oh yeah, lots of expenses on their guy. He wasn't very frugal. The volatility continued. Many new employees didn't tend to stick around very long. Terry O'Connor, Susan Ford. I know the game said I shouldn't look for all the names, but I was thinking maybe I should just look for the secretary names. Here it says that journalists have verified that she is not anonymous. Corinne Schwartz. Beatrice Watts? No. We had some more expenses here. Lots of flavors being developed. Grandford Dove donation. What is that? 250,000. The Grandford School for the Deaf, formerly Grandford Dove, is located about an hour from where the Roottree offices used to be in Butler County, but it serves much of the part of Pennsylvania and nearby Ohio. According to their website, it was formerly named Grandford Dove because Grandford was the last name of the founder and Dove is the Spanish word for deaf. The founder had issues with government translators, leading to an odd transcription issue. In 1990, it was renamed to better represent the school's purpose and to correct the embarrassing lack of effort and awareness demonstrated by the government officials in those early days. The staff is listed on the website. You scan through all of the biographies and find that the principal, Miss Ford, is fluent in 5 languages, including ASL. She has been working at the school for over 15 years. Miss Ford's bio also mentions she's not deaf herself, but rather learned sign language to communicate with the deaf. It mentions she was responsible for securing funding for the Hudson Wing. Well, Guy Hudson, I imagine, well, he donated 250,000. What I did also notice is that I think that it was it this year or last year? Well, Susan Ford, special services interpreter. She was an interpreter. So I'm guessing there was someone deaf at the company, therefore she was hired, and that's how maybe her and Guy Hudson met. I am imagining that Susan Ford might be someone that Guy had an affair with. Well, let's have a look and we find something more about the Hudson Wing, maybe. The Hudson Wing was an expansion to Grandford Dove, now Grandford School for the Deaf, first built in 1982. It's a separate, much smaller building half a block from the main campus and operates as a smaller independent school that offers free ASL courses for the family members, friends, and caretakers of deaf children. According to their history site, they got their name after the president of the Roottree company generously donated 250,000 towards the construction of the building. There's also a very vague history section that you can somewhat fill in with details from the other information you've seen about the school. It mentions that the donation came at the insistence of an employee of Roottree at the time. It mentions that she learned ASL from the main school before the Hudson Wing even existed to surprise her future husband, who was deaf. Okay. I feel like that must be Susan Ford, right? Because it was mentioned Susan isn't deaf herself, she learned the ASL. After realizing how useful a service like this could be to non-deaf people, the wish to better serve those with hearing issues, she convinced Roottrie management to invest in the school. The Hudson Wing opened and she became the first teacher at the new campus. At first it only operated on weekends, but since then it has added afternoon classes on some weekdays. She worked at the Roottree company until 1980. My guess would be that the affair happened around that time. Which means it wouldn't be her, because this happened in 82. This lady wasn't married, which means I would assume this is her, Susan Ford. Now, is Ford her maiden name, or is... I mean, in the company records, she's listed as Susan Ford, but later on she's also listed as Susan Ford. Let's try to search for Susan Ford in Butler County Times, maybe? No. I did a quick research and Ms, I guess, Ms. It doesn't denote the marital status. We don't know if she's married or not married just based on this. But she definitely had a husband, so I'm pretty sure it has to be her. She's listed as a principal on the website. Principal of the school. I'm surprised we didn't get her photo. Surely there's a photo on the website, right? But apparently not. Okay, here we go. I was hoping that there would be something in the Butler County Times about the school as well. And something was printed. Granford School for the Deaf has made a few odd appearances here and there in the Butler County Times since 1990. It's not too many that you can't look at all of them, so after scrolling through a few pages, you manage to find something incredibly useful in an article that isn't even focused on the school itself. Local students provide key evidence in scientific study. The article is from March of this year, 1999, mentions that the Ford sisters who attend public school in Butler County are one of only a handful of identical twins in the world who suffer from two different genetic issues. One of them has asthma, and the other one has a deadly allergy to peanuts. Their mother, Ms. Susie Ford, who is principal at a nearby Granford School for the Deaf, was originally contacted by researchers looking to identify if there were any sets of twins where one was born deaf and the other was not. Okay, well, we have their names. I was wrong. This is not Susan. This is Susan. It was the final affair then. I guess it lasted for a few years then, probably. I mean, how can we know though? I guess it's not for us to know whether they are guys, children, or the spouses. I guess they can do the DNA tests afterwards. We just need to make the family tree as it should be. Let's see. We did have their names, right? While she didn't have any twins attending her school, she asked if her daughters Melissa and Heather. Well, Melissa is listed first, so I would assume she might be the oldest. Let's mark her as such for now. Melissa Ford and Heather Ford. And, well, they should be students, because it's a very recent article. She says, they couldn't be more different. My youngest, we all call her that even though it's only by about 15 minutes, is shy, but essentially hasn't stopped running from the moment she learned to scamper. Asthma has kept her sister off the soccer field, but she's the definition of extrovert, and is even performing in a local production of Is There Life After High School later this year. The article includes a picture of the girls added to your evidence. Okay, let's have a look at that photo. Here they are. That's an inhaler, and that's like a peanut bar. Oh, EpiPen, yeah, EpiPen, and oh, that's an EpiPen. Okay, EpiPen for the allergies, an inhaler for her asthma. Okay, what was it described as? Youngest one is shy but hasn't stopped running, and the other sister has an asthma. The older sister has asthma, therefore, right? Which would be her. And this would be her. I think. Let's try to search for Is There Life After High School? Is There Life After High School is a musical. It's quite obscure, only appearing on Broadway for 17 performances after a preview period. Nowadays, it's mostly performed by smaller theater troupes, including high school drama clubs. If you can tell by now, a game designer by the name of Jeremy Johnston was in musical theater all 4 years of high school. There's one song from it that has somehow surpassed the popularity of the rest of the musical called The Kid Inside. If you'd like to listen to it, I recommend Barry Manilow's version. The entire musical deals entirely with the traumas and nostalgia that society collectively shares about their formative years, which feels appropriately thematic for this game. Keyword in the Butler County Times article was local. Local production, okay. Well, let's search for that, because I like these Easter eggs from the developers. Well, let's search for the Butler County Times for it instead. It seems like a high school in Butler County performed Is There Life After High School near the end of April 1999. The cast list mentions some names including Heather Ford. I don't think that helps us too much, does it? Well, that's very good and all, but I was hoping to get Susan's photo. How don't we have her photo? She's the principal of a school. I would have thought that her photo would be findable. Well, okay, let's have a look what is in the final page here. Guy Hudson died in May of 1982, so the first few months of that year continued along the same pattern as they had been. Things quickly changed when Ernie took over. Most of the extraneous expenses ended, and all of the secretaries most handpicked by Guy Hudson were let go. Sam Edson left Roottrees in 1984, so this is the last set of books you have access to. Susan Ford is no longer employed by Roottrees. Susan Ford, 1982. Which makes sense, yeah, they had an affair until 1982. Oh, she was moved to office staff. Oh, I misread it. I read it as removed from office staff. Susan is let go. Douglas Rosenberg was rehired. That's interesting. Let's have a quick look if he is somehow relevant, maybe? Doesn't look like it. Angelina Ingram, Linda Lewis, and Catherine Garrett are no longer employed. From here on out, no secretaries are directly employed by Roottree. Roottree instead uses a temp agency called Worktime Temp. Let's search for that, maybe. Worktime Temp is a company with many offices all over the United States. The Roottree County company is listed on their site as one of the companies they do business with. So it's far from the only one you recognize. Okay, I don't think this is very relevant to our task here. Amy Stutton hired. Stuart Todd is no longer employed. Cancelled. All these major expenses cancelled. Fred Gleason anniversary bonus. Root clothing reimbursement. Carl Roottree. That's a big clothing reimbursement. $1 million. Maybe you can search for Root. Maybe there's something new comes up. The Root website has a small memorial section to the deceased members of the family, but it contains no new information. The most recent catalog, spring 1999, had an entirely black cover with no text on it. On the leadership page, you'll learn that Root is currently managed by a designer who is apparently Brenda White's second in command. You don't recognize her name and she seems unrelated to your search. There's also a scholarship page. On it, you find information about the Roottree Sisters Fashion Scholarship. It is awarded to 3 unprivileged high school girls each year who wish to pursue a career in fashion. Apparently, it also gives them an opportunity to show off their designs on professional models on a real runway. According to the site, the fund was created directly from shares that would have contributed to the inheritance of the Roottree sisters if they were still alive. Like other aspects of the clan's trust, it's managed by Ruby Legal Enterprises. Ooh. Let's have a look at that. Ruby Legal Enterprises is the name of the law firm that has been hired by the Roottree Candy Company. The company is named after its head lawyer, Ruby Spratt. You can't find much about the company from before this year, though all of the articles tell the same tale. After the fiasco of 6 Pieces and the revelation that the Rootree's internal law group was complicit in such a cover-up, they hired outside counsel. The Ruby Legal Enterprise Group now seems to have ties to multiple aspects of the Roottree Corporation, including the Candy Company and Root. They were recently in the news due to a high-profile lawsuit they raised against Cicely Sanchez. Well, let's have a look. Well, first of all, let's search for Ruby Spratt. Is that somehow relevant? Probably not, but I just want to be thorough. Ruby Spratt, like her legal company, is relatively elusive. The most complete source of information you can find from before her time with the Roottrees is from the website for a magazine owned by a major airline. She was the subject of one article from a recurring series about modern-day success stories. Ruby grew up in a foster care but excelled at school and earned a scholarship to study at Mid-Eastern University. There she graduated at the top of her legal class and was quickly hired as a lawyer for a prominent firm. There are a few high-profile corporate-involved cases she was a part of. One was a legal conciliation for a class action lawsuit against the manufacturer of steering wheel covers. Another was to help a local gas station chain in her hometown of Portland with the rollout of a promotion that allowed gas station customers the ability to bet on the price of gas. The blurb ends by calling her new firm a double threat. Her company's services are a cross between a traditional lawyer and a PR manager. Portland, huh? Hometown of Portland. Someone else is from Portland. Weren't they? I don't remember who. Would Ruby Spratt be somehow related to Roottrees? I don't know, might be a conspiracy theory on my part. Let's search for Cicely Sanchez, maybe. Cicely Sanchez is an author best known for Portrait of a Changed Man, released in 1979. Her follow-up, Foreign Gospel, did not perform as well critically, but still sold quite respectably. She has written a few more books since then, including a biography of Van Gogh, but her first 2 are her claim to fame. According to a site about authors, Cicely is known for her non-fiction with a focus of exploring darkness in the human psyche. Recently, Cicely appeared in a magazine called Picotee with an article about a book she had been commissioned to write for Guy Hudson. The magazine and Cicely herself were immediately issued a cease and desist due to its inclusion of pictures that she never had the rights to publish. The issue was pulled from store shelves, making it an instant collector's item. Okay, Petery. Petery is a category of flower with an outline around the edge of its petals. Petery magazine. I learned from the last time we had the cherry tree, right? It was too broad, so it had to be a little bit more specific. Petery magazine is a publication that, as far as you can tell, has no consistent theme. It tends to contain tabloid-esque articles that appeal to a wider variety of audiences, and appears in many grocery stores near the checkout line. Unlike traditional tabloids, it doesn't typically feature celebrities on the cover. Instead, it tends to latch onto and create sensationalist headlines about whatever subject appears to be popular at any given time. In recent years, it has included Beanie Babies, Magic Eye images, and even Red Bull. It has often come under fire for printing fiction along with facts. Petery gets around this by stating in every issue that all of its articles are all the hearsay that's fit to print. At one point, Petery ran an article about Cicely Sanchez, an author she claims to have written an unread book about a guy Hudson. The article was not even the main focus of the issue, yet the magazine was threatened legally by the Roottree Corporation. The particular issue, the Big Sass Sea Bass issue, was pulled from shelves. It has now become a collector's item, especially among conspiracy theorists attempting to figure out what the Roottree company was hiding. You find a recently finished online auction that listed a copy at over $1,000, though nobody bid. Big Sass Sea Bass. That's an interesting name, alright. Big Sass Sea Bass is a talking fish that sits on a fake mount on your wall. When you press the button and speak into it, it mimics your voice. Let's try to search for it in the Petery periodicals. Here we go. In an issue that focused on a talking fish toy and the demonic messages it supposedly said as the batteries ran low, Petery had an article about a cancelled book by Cicely Sanchez. The book's subject was Guy Hudson, and the issue was said to contain pictures that Cicely did not have the rights to publish. Because of the pictures, this issue was pulled from store shelves, making it the subject of some conspiracies. Yeah, we read that already. What did we print out just now? Basil bulb. The magazine was pulled from shelves. And the version you found in your periodical search had the relevant pages removed, rendering this magazine useless, unless you want to read about the potentially demonic fish toy. What if I do? I mean, it still says we have 8 intuition here somehow. That doesn't say anything. We don't get any new information here. Can we find the book's name? I mean, I doubt that book would be in our library, though. We can maybe search for her other books. Portrait of a Changed Man. No. Also no. Well. Okay, I found something about her here. Newsstand briefly covered a lawsuit between Ruby Spratt and Petery magazine surrounding Cicely Sanchez. They said that Cicely didn't have the rights, yeah. They would be pulling their issue the following day, the moment that Ruby legal enterprises threatened them. This caused the issue to sell faster than any other of the magazine's history, though only for a day. Even people that would never have normally purchased it went out of their way to buy one, just in case it would be worth something someday. An expert legal analyst from Newstime states that it was unlikely that Ruby could have had the story pulled if it had gone to court, and Petery likely got more eyes on it than it would have if the Roottrees just ignored the story. Yet I can't find it anywhere. How can we find those photos? Maybe it's a red herring, maybe we can't find it, but I mean, it says we have 8 intuition here, so there must be something we can find. Oh! I decided to search for Chris Raff 75 and something was printed. Chris Rafferty's prodigy site seems to have been discovered by the masses. Gone are the art pictures of his cousins, instead it's a list of questions that people kept emailing him. The most relevant ones are the following. Are you the son of Clark Rafferty? Yes, but I didn't grow up with him. I remember him from when I was a little kid, but I moved away with my mom when I was very young. We left Pennsylvania and moved back home to Virginia. We lived there with Pete, my stepdad. My dad and I spoke a few times when I found his phone number on a check he sent us in the mail when I was 15. He was happy to hear from me, and now he calls me once a month and came to visit me at college. He tells me about things I don't remember and people like Guy Hudson and Ernie Madsen. My dad and I get along, but obviously we aren't very close. Did you ever meet the Roottrees? I used to know the Roottrees, but never the sisters. I was in the office sometimes when I was a kid, and I definitely met Guy Hudson before he died, but I don't remember. My memory is weird. It's hard to know what I actually remember or what I only think I do because I have pictures. For example, I have a photo from when I was 5 in the office with my dad and Guy was there. I made myself sick by eating chocolate and some woman who I don't know cleaned my face. Could be one of the secretaries? Huh? I don't know if my memories of that come from the picture or not. The photo has been added to your evidence. How did you have proof of Ernie Madsen's heart condition? I knew Ernie had a heart problem because my dad told me on one of our phone calls. I asked him about the poison because I saw it on the Roottree Curse website and he emailed some old stuff including the proof, but even with the proof the website didn't take it down. You spelled fiancé wrong. I'm not good at spelling or writing. I'm good at painting and other art. I'm going to school to learn how to edit movies. I want to make cartoons someday. Lulu is much better at spelling. Okay, that's Guy. That is Clark. This is Chris. That's one of the secretaries. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. This photo was on Chris Rafferty's website. He snuck up in the supply and chocolate they kept for visitors and tours. Chris Rafferty did not know who the woman in the photo was. Did it say the year, like approximate year when it might have been taken? I don't think it did it? Yeah, I did not. Well, okay, that's still useful. We got some photos there. Which means we can put this photo here. This photo here. And Guy. Oh, Guy's photos go here. And one of the ladies. Which one though? Which one? There are like 4 options. And I wouldn't know. Any clues? Wait, let's have a look at the photo again. Oh, she has a tattoo on her hand, I just noticed. I don't remember reading anything about any tattoos. But if we do, that's something to keep in mind. What is that symbol? Should I know? Like an asterisk or something. Well, we haven't searched for Clark himself yet. Anything new and interesting here? Clark Rafferty LaRue is the new president of the Roottree Corporation. In early March, it was announced that both Clark and Ron Roottree would be taking over for what essentially described as a transitional period in the aftermath of 6 Pieces. About 2 weeks later, the company released a press statement that thanked Ron for his work but announced that Clark was the new permanent president. Most of the information about Clark you knew already. Many descriptions of him tend to focus on his advertising career and that his mother was Lauren Roottree. Few seem to touch on his complex and volatile marital history. Since taking over, Clark has tried to remain out of the spotlight but did have one notable foray into the public eye. He gained a lot of support when his first move was a statement in favor of accepting Sam and her family into the trust. This also served as an announcement that the clan's trust would no longer be handled by anyone in the family, since due to their financial motivation, none of them could ever be impartial. Makes sense. Let's search for Ron, maybe. Ron Roottree. Maybe there's something about him. Ron was announced as the president of Roottree during the Roottree Rift, but the next press release immediately reversed the announcement and instead stated that Ron and Clark would take over. A few weeks later, Ron was dropped from the title entirely. There are hundreds of results about this development, but most articles are retelling of basic details. Some veer into heavy speculation based on an article about Ron in Business Watch. Ron in Business Watch. I'll have to search for Ron in Business Watch. Good to know. Ron has also done some interviews saying that the truth of what went on behind the scenes is not something he wishes to discuss. Instead, he hopes to release a movie about it someday. 3 weeks ago, Ron's mother Gwyn died in Paris, France. He and his brother Robbie have seemingly made amends. Well, let's search for Ron in Business Watch maybe then. Business Watch ran an article about 2 months after the Roottree Rift about what really happened with Roottree. The article mentions that nobody from Roottree that they reached out to was willing to go on the record. Instead, the timeline of events has been constructed from public record, accidental leaks, and a source on the inside. Ooh. The only parts that are new to you are also the most vague parts, the ones supposedly confirmed by their anonymous source. The timeline says that the family actually held a preliminary vote after Carl Roottree died, but before the release of 6 Pieces, and decided they wanted Ron Roottree to take over, because of his experience running RR Productions and because he was a well-known and well-respected Roottrie. But Ron seemed way too eager and personally motivated. They were worried he would gut the clan's trust to remove Robbie Roottrie. Oh right, he did want to remove Robbie. That is right. The family was notoriously unwilling to do anything that could risk their wealth. They stalled and Ron became frustrated with a delay. When Six Pieces came out, he saw his chance to force action while the family was in the limelight and released the press release himself in an attempt to get the ball rolling faster. This caused chaos within the family. They tried to save face by allowing Ron to take over as a co-president with Clark, but according to Business Watch's source, Ron was impossible to deal with. He seemed like he was unwilling to protect the clan's trust, and they eventually let him go. After that, the role passed solely to Clark, who nobody was excited about but seemed like the safest choice. Okay. Fair enough. That's a lot of intrigue behind the scenes. It doesn't really help us with the family tree, but it fills in like the background info. We can search for the Roottree Rift, maybe. Maybe there's something new. The 3 press releases from the Roottree Candy Company after the release of 6 Pieces were referred to as the Roottree Rift due to the clear conflicts between them. The first was fairly standard. It stated there was no president of the Roottree Company, but the entire family was made aware of the release of the book. Okay, I'm reading this article about Anonymom, where it basically retells the whole story about how her daughter turned out not to be a Roottree. But it says, though it was scientifically proven that Jane Doe Roottree is not a Roottree, this doesn't mean that her mother and Guy Hudson were not involved in an affair. Which made me think that, yeah, maybe Anonymom is one of these 2 missing ones. She still has a daughter, but it just turned out not to be a Roottree. But we still might need to place her. Oh, Anonymom's affair does not appear in your updated tree. Oh, okay. Well, good to have that cleared up then. Because I was planning to try to dig in deeper and then look for this. But okay, good to know that we don't need to do that. Wait! I realized I misspelled Cicely Sanchez before. I was looking at this cover and I noticed, I think, and it made me think, oh, I think I wrote Cicely without the E before. And, indeed. I think I actually did. Well, maybe there's something useful here. Let's have a look. So, Portrait of a Changed Man. The book's description has this to say. What if everything you stand for, everything you know to be true today could disappear in an instant? All of your politics, relationships gone in the blink of an eye. Would you still be you? Cicely Sanchez tells this powerful true story about a man who woke up after being saved from drowning in his backyard pool and became an entirely different person, including our interviews from those that knew him best before, as well as one-on-one chat that paints an entirely different picture. You won't be able to put it down without wondering, what if that were me? Well, I don't think that's particularly relevant to our story here. And what was the other than Foreign Gospel? Foreign Gospel tells the tale of a man from the Catholic Church who claims he was told by God that he should travel to Thailand and began to preach, specifically with a goal to convert 10,000 people. He returned to the United States after just over 2 years, claiming to have succeeded. This book tells his version of the story, but the author Cicely Sanchez also traveled to Thailand to investigate these claims and talk with some of the so-called converted. Interesting, but again, not particularly relevant, is it? I'm not sure. What else can we pursue? Oh? This? I was just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. I searched for Mark Clementine in Petery magazine and something came up. Petery magazine is kind of sleazy, so they're not afraid to publish a few details that more reputable news publications normally wouldn't. You look up the Billy Sims incident and it seems they did report on it. You gain a few new bits of information, though it might not be useful. Billy Sims, wait, who's Billy Sims? I feel like I skipped a step here before getting here. Billy Sims was once arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at a company that was found to be testing their products on animals. Wait, who's Billy Sims? I feel like I should probably search for that first. Billy Sims is the principal of Sandstone Canyon High School, who had his 15 minutes of fame in 1994 when he was punched by Crocodile Clementine at a graduation ceremony. Pretty much every news organization from Trustworthy to Tabloids seemed to have their own take on the altercation. It wasn't the punch that captured the nation's attention, however. Instead, it was Billy Sims's matter-of-fact response to the threat and his comments afterwards, as heard in a now famous audio clip from someone who was recording the ceremony. Billy saw Mark hop onto the graduation stage and said, "Sir, you'll want to sit down or we'll have a problem." At that point, Crocodile reportedly sucker punched him in the face. But who's Crocodile Clementine? Mark. Well, this is Mark. Is Mark, like, was that Mark's son? Is Crocodile Mark's son, maybe? Mark hopped onto the graduation stage and then Crocodile punched him. So Crocodile is not Mark. Crocodile is someone else. Billy, apparently only slightly dazed, said, "All right, sir, I guess we'll have a problem." Okay. Clementine tried to throw another punch, but Sims anticipated it and performed a maneuver that spectators described as a wrestling move mixed with a backward somersault, which immediately brought both men to the floor, with Sims then straddling Clementine, keeping him neutralized. As security arrived, the recording captured someone asking, "How did you do that?" And Sims's response was famously, "Trust me, I am as surprised as anyone." That's certainly an event. Sandstone Canyon High School. It is in San Diego. Billy Sims incident. Well, Crocodile Clementine. Let's search for that. Crocodile Clementine is listed on a website titled The Infamy List. It's a massive list of criminals who are known for odd crimes. Although Mark's nickname would imply he hails from Florida, a lot of others on the list come from there or Australia. Mark is listed as being from Los Angeles. He has a pretty big entry. He seems like a real piece of work. Okay, so it is Mark then. I thought it might have been Mark's son, but no, it is Mark. There's a very small note about him being the basket baby of 1950, but most everything else comes from his adulthood. He lost his job in 1975 as a pilot for a regional airline after he tried to board the wrong airplane's plane. He was drunk. He was charged with trespassing and assault. Oh gosh. In 1982, he was arrested for transporting smuggled animals over the Canadian and Mexican borders for an illegal reptile supplier in Los Angeles. He was apparently quite successful for the first 4 years, but was caught when he had to make an emergency landing in Portland after he was bitten on the foot by a crocodile. Hence the nickname. Apparently, the Portland Telegraph is credited as having given him his nickname. His mugshot from this incident has been added to your photos. In 1993, he was released on parole, but his freedom didn't last long. He was arrested in 1994 in San Diego for violating it in an attempt to visit his daughter's graduation. He famously punched the principal, a man named Billy Sims. This incident received national press. So he's a pilot then. Oh, here he is. You found this mugshot online. It's Mark Clementine, who was arrested for smuggling reptiles into the United States. He doesn't look very... well, that's him. Will I be able to add his photo afterwards? Is there like a criminal as well as an occupation? I think pilot has to be it, right? Criminal isn't really an occupation. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. Which means if we assume these two are correct, we need one more for them to lock in. We know that he has a daughter. Multnomah County. Multnomah is a county in Portland, Oregon. Oh, we got the Portland Telegraph periodical. We can maybe search for Mark Clementine there, if they gave him his nickname. The Portland Telegraph was the one that provided the nickname Crocodile Clementine and has some details about Crocodile Clementine's first major arrest. He was flying weekly before Los Angeles, Juarez, and Vancouver in a small plane. His flights were very low, literally under the radar. He was only caught because he was bit by a crocodile on the leg and had to call in a mayday because he was losing blood. He tried to tell them that he was a crop duster who somehow caught his leg on a loose piece of metal in the cockpit. But his story seemed very odd and controllers quickly alerted the police without informing him. When he landed, they were waiting and he was promptly arrested. That's it? I was hoping to get something more. Surely there's something else that we can find in this periodical. Oh, we found something more about Billy Sims. The Portland Telegraph had an article slightly longer than most about the Billy Sims incident, mostly because the assaulter Crocodile Clementine had appeared in the paper before. Because of the somewhat comedic sensationalism of the events in question, and because their readers were already familiar with Mark Clementine, they filed it under a special banner called Croc Watch. It mentions that our good friend Croc Clementine was actually in attendance at the high school graduation because his daughter was walking the stage. He was apparently not allowed to attend. His ex-wife had a restraining order filed on behalf of her daughter, but did so anyways. Oof. It was unknown to the school staff, including Sims at the time, who he was, but a security guard recognized him, and that's when the trouble started. Clementine was approaching the side of the stage to try to avoid the guard when the exchange between him and Sims took place. The article finishes by facetiously asking, what will Croc get up to next? Stay tuned for more Croc Watch. Unfortunately for your investigation, as far as you can tell, there were no more instances of Croc Watch. I wanted to find his daughter's name or his wife's name either, but nothing. There must be somewhere. There's sort of like a search result for Croc Watch that's some sort of a digital watch for kids, but that's not really relevant. Oh wait, I just realized I didn't finish reading the Pico Tees article. I saw Billy Sims and then went the other way. But Billy Sims was once arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at a company that was found to be testing their products on animals. According to police paperwork, Crocodile Clementine's bail was paid for by Tostarito Jacobson. It was fairly expensive. Okay, that's something to highlight. Pico T interviewed other students that were at the event to find out if anyone knew anything. And the word going around was that Mark Clementine showed up because his daughter Mary was graduating that night. Mary, here we go. Mary Clementine. Let's see if we can find anything about Mary Clementine anywhere. No, does not seem so. She's one of the two children, obviously, but which one? No idea. I mean, when did it happen? It was like... what year? It was 1994 in San Diego. So 5 years ago. Yeah, doesn't help much. Let's see if Tosarito Jacobson finds something helpful. Fuego's Fiesta, a regional Mexican fast food chain, held a competition in 1993 that offered free meals for life to anyone that legally changed their name to Tosarito. The Tosarito was a burrito with a cylindrical tostada shell inside the flour tortilla. According to a few different sources, Tosarito Jacobson used to be named Lucinda. Lucinda Jacobson. Let's search for Lucinda Jacobson. The surname Jacobson. Could be his ex, maybe? Who else could it be? Why would anyone else pay a big bond? Oh, Butler County Times. There's a crime blotter article about Edith Jacobson that also mentions a Helen Roottrees and a Lucinda Jacobson. In 1971, when she was 18, Edith and her sister Lucinda were arrested for trespassing at the Miracle Congregation's church in Butler County. They were pretending to be church's employees in an attempt to get into the room where the church houses their weekly tittings. The church didn't press charges. They were caught by Helen Roottree, who was there at the time while her husband Miracle was away preaching. Helen Roottree was quoted as saying, "Jesus forgives and so do we. The Lord works in mysterious ways and I'm confident He has brought these young women to us for a greater purpose." This might have been... It's an old article, it says, so I think it's from the base game. I think this might have been how I could have figured out Miracle Roottree's wife's name, because I guessed it. That's not particularly helpful, is it? Well, I would guess that this is Lucinda... Well, Lucy, I guess. Jacobson. Wait, there's no Jacobson. Who is Lucinda Jacobson then? Or Tostarito Jacobson? I thought I was onto something, but apparently not. Okay, this is a new one. Newstime did a small piece about a fight between Sims and Crocodile, but tried to approach it from a different perspective. Their goal was to paint a picture of the two men involved from others who knew them best. Not only did they manage to interview Sims's wife Carla... Wait, that's Sims's wife Carla. We don't care about Sims, do we? I mean, I can still highlight it, but I don't think it's too relevant. As well as multiple staff members at his school, but they hunted down Colleen Webb, Mark's ex-wife. Colleen Webb. Colleen Webb. Good. Finally, some progress. According to the section with Colleen, she and he met when he worked for an airline. She worked in an airport newsstand. He was a drinker and would often have wild mood swings. When he was charged with assault of a fellow pilot in 1975 and lost his job, they divorced. At the time, she was pregnant with her second daughter, 2 daughters, and she felt she needed to get out before things got worse. Makes sense. She left him and moved to San Diego to live with her sister and told her oldest that her dad had to fly planes for the army. She raised them both by herself, and although she never went through the trouble of changing their names legally, they used the Webb name so that nobody would connect them to her ex-husband. Okay, so the daughters are surname Webb. Webb and Webb. Okay. I still don't know which one is the student. We can search maybe Colleen Webb. And what is the daughter's name? Mary? Mary Webb. Maybe I tried to search for Mary Clementine, but maybe Mary Webb finds something. Oh, yes! Let's go! I didn't know... Yeah, well, knowing she had a different surname would have helped earlier. And Mary Webb in San Diego has a website called Web on the Web. Clever. Apparently it's a personal travel diary that also doubles as an advertisement for her travel agency. Okay, a travel agent. I remember there was a travel agent listed among the occupations. There are descriptions of Mary's services, including... Well, I'm guessing that's the oldest daughter, right? There are descriptions of Mary's services, including booking flights and cruises. Almost all of them involve extremely niche audiences. It seems Mary is the #1 agent when it comes to booking spiritual vacations aboard ghost ships and in specific hotel rooms that are said to be haunted. She also has a dedicated section for more traditional modern cruises that cater to specific groups such as fans of boy bands. In the diary entry, she talks about the trips she's personally taken and uses that as an opportunity to feature descriptions of amenities and excursions that the ships offer, even when you're on them to see a specific band or a ghost. There's also pictures of ships, hotels, landmarks, and places she's visited, as well as a picture of Mary herself with a ship in the background. One of her diary entries actually mentions the day that the photo was taken. She was allowed onto the ship on a port day in San Diego with a professional photographer she knows. The photo of Mary has been added to your evidence. I was hoping it will mention something about her husband or something, or child. I'm assuming that is her. But we got nothing. This is her. Mary Webb. Oh, there is some additional context here. This is a photograph of Mary in front of an alleged ghost ship from the 1800s. It was lost at sea and turned up without any crew several years later. Nobody knows exactly what happened, but fans love to tour it and come up with their own paranormal theories. A company called Corporate Composition Photography is listed on the top left. Well, let's search for that. Corporate Composition Photography is a photography studio that was listed on a few different sites for businesses in San Diego. It seems to have been possible to hire them to take professional quality photos for businesses of all sorts. As far as you can tell, it appears to no longer exist. The company is also mentioned on the photography site with some IRC chat logs. It seems like the site is the personal page of a member of an IRC photography channel. They have archives of logs they've been saving since 1993. One of them was from 1996 when Val, the former head photographer from Corporate Composition Photography, did a Q&A with their users about taking pictures from promotional materials and print ads. Most of the questions and answers are pretty technical. They not only seem irrelevant but generally go over your head. One of the questions, however, mentions that Val was on the cover of Telephoto and asks about Iraq. The question was quickly shut down by the person running the Q&A, who said Val does not wish to answer any questions from his photojournalism days, nor does he wish to talk about LBP. Please keep this on the subject of commercial photography. Okay, what's Telephoto? It's a photography magazine. Yeah, I was kind of suspecting that that is gonna be a new periodical. Val. That's all I have, just Val. I mean, I can try to search for Val, but I don't think anything will be found. Yeah, that's not enough. What's LBP? In searching for LBP, you get a wide variety of results. Lebanese pound, lower back pain, lead-based paint, low blood pressure, Louisiana Board of Pharmacy, Long Beach Peninsula, Lynch Building, plastics, luxury bridal photography, maybe. Cause, I mean, photography, Lincoln baby photography, maybe. Luxury bridal photography is a photography business which is a good start. Unfortunately, it seems like it's located in Ireland and its owner is named Nicholas. He goes by Nick Luxury. Yeah, that doesn't seem very relevant. Maybe Lincoln baby photography. Okay. Lincoln baby photography seems like a solid lead, as it mentions a Val, an award-winning photographer, on the page. It's a business in Beacon, New York, and on the site it has a picture of a baby and a camera captioned with Cam Lincoln reaching for his namesake. I guess he takes after his father, Val. Wait, okay, this definitely is relevant. At the bottom, the website says copyright 1998-1999. The picture has been added to your evidence. Is Val Mary's husband or something? I'm not sure. We have a baby's photograph. Cam Lincoln. So his name would be Val Lincoln. Right? Let's try to go here and look for Val Lincoln. Yes! Val Lincoln was featured in Telephoto, the cover, which featured one of his photos, as well as portions of the article have been added to your evidence. Where? Oh, up here? Oh, Val is a lady. For some reason, I thought Val was a guy. Okay, Telephoto is a photography magazine. Val Lincoln, a photographer who went overseas during Desert Storm. He won the Sepia Award for photojournalism, specifically for the photo on the cover. So this is the photo that he took, not a photo of him. Val got his start in high school when he took a photography class because, in his own words, he couldn't decide what else to do and thought it would be the best career in the world to shoot for Playboy. But he quickly found he had a knack for it and began to skip lunch and his free periods to spend more time in the darkroom. After graduating, he tried to pivot to landscape photography but didn't have any passion for it. I work much better when I'm trying to tell the story of a person or an object. He got lucky when a photographer mentor of his, who was going overseas to cover the war, decided to take a chance on him. Most people couldn't call it lucky to go to an active war zone for no pay, but he brought my plane tickets, all my mails, and even pulled some strings so he could rush my passport. For someone that had never had a real job or even left California, it was a hell of a break. Val was only 19 at the time and shot the photo that won him an award the third night he was there. The photo depicts Lisa Clementine, who lost an arm in Operation Desert Saber. Lisa Clementine. Who is Lisa Clementine? According to the article, women were not subject to direct combat and Lisa was in a vehicle at the time. The vehicle had to pull over suddenly when the road ahead was partially destroyed, and she and a fellow soldier were severely injured by a landmine. Maybe they got married afterwards. Val says, I ran into Lisa just after her surgery and took this picture. Then until she shipped out, I kept finding excuses to go back and take more pictures of her. I guess it was fate because that's the photo that won me an award and got me into your magazine. And also led to my engagement. Okay, that explains a lot. Just earlier this week, she agreed to become Mrs. Lincoln. Perfect. That solves so many issues. That's Lisa. Lisa. And this will be Val Lincoln. This will be Mary Webb then. Do we have Mary's photo? Yes, we do. We do have Lisa's photo as well. We have her baby's photo as well. Did we know baby's name? I think we did. Cam Lincoln. Cam Lincoln. What is Lisa's occupation? Well, we can set her photo here. Military, maybe. And the baby, well, that's a baby. Things are still not locked in. Are these daughters wrong? Did I get her photos wrong or... Well, let's mark her as a travel agent because we know that as well. Mary. Yeah, still not locked in. I feel like I got the daughters wrong, surely, because I'm very certain about this part right now. Okay, let's have a look at the daughters. Maybe I got the youngest and oldest mixed up. The twin on the left is holding an inhaler. Asma, no, Asma has to be the older sister. So I think I got their names wrong. Is this Heather and this Melissa? Okay, I got their names wrong. Photos were right. Oh gosh, this took so long. This is definitely harder. Wait, but I mean, I'm happy that I got all of this right now, but okay, wait, story.
Sam reached out to me finally. I think I have you to thank for that one.
Okay.
The family's in a bit of a rough patch. Even though the candy is selling better than ever, everyone is fighting over the trust. The majority of us want to dissolve it. On paper, it seems like the right decision. The arguments about what to do next are endless and heated. More than a few Roottrees are worried about losing their wealth. I don't think we deserve it more than anyone else. I love my family, my wife, my daughters, even my son, who I hardly ever get to see.
Well, yeah, the family just gets bigger and bigger with all these names
I want to keep
showing
them
up.
safe and secure, but I didn't do anything to deserve this fortune. Hell, I probably deserve it less than most. It took me way too long to get my life together. Okay, enough about me. Here's the deal. I can't stop the majority from voting one way or another. If you keep passing along potential Roottrees, I'll keep adding them to the list. On the other hand, there's been some leaps forward in genetics. It may sound like science fiction, but we can actually determine who's in the family just by testing their DNA.
I mean, that's great.
What you've done so far has been very useful. Just keep filling out the tree and we'll prepare for the tests.
Perfect. As I said, I'm happy that we got these things right, but why are these two wrong? That one is truly confusing me. Well, we can put Mark's photo here, because she, like, in my mind, they were definitely right. What was their surname? Not Webb. No, Mary-Beth. Wait, it was Mary-Beth. That's how I found her. Her travel agency. I mean, she's definitely younger, because Lisa is the one who got married to Val. Well, I guess I'll have to figure out this mystery in the next episode, because it's been a while, so it's time to wrap up this one. If you've enjoyed this, press that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel. And on the right side, there will be the next part of the Roottreemania once it is released. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video.